From 1998 to 2009 and maybe a bit of 2010, DreamWorks was an animation studio that was still experimenting with styles. It wasn't until 2010 when they first really tried photorealism with How to Train Your Dragon. And before that, Kung Fu Panda also was liked by many in its animation. But the other films, even if they were liked, did not wow people in their animation, except the 2D ones. So today, I will list out some merits of these early CG animated films by DreamWorks. First off, Ants. They were the first CG animated film to have CG water. That's right, Toy Story was not using CG water. Though the fluid doesn't age as well today, it is still pretty technically impressive. Second, the fire. The fire from the magnifying glass is quite impressive for '98, don't you think? Anyways, there's also the Ant City, which has thousands of ants marching, acorn elevators, and blinking lights. And finally, there's this thing out of the garbage chute. I don't know what it is, but it looks perhaps one of the best parts of this film. Very natural looking. So then there's Shrek. Shrek actually did wow people when it first came to theaters, but it won't today. But there were definitely a few impressive things about its animation. First off, there's the shot of riding dragon. This is the widest scale shot by far. Second, there's the foliage. This was the first CG animated film to have, what should I say, a lot of trees. And some of it still looks pretty good today, especially the grass. The mud and water also aged pretty well. Or how about the fire dragon breathes? That also is pretty good. And Donkey's fur. People have also said Shrek was the first 3D animated film to not have creepy looking humans. Yeah, sorry Toy Story 2. Fiona looked surprisingly realistic. Then there is Shrek 2. Shrek 2 actually was seen as an improvement, so fine, let's just skip it, shall we? Instead, let's move on to Shark Tale. It's hard to compete with Finding Nemo, but Shark Tale had really good gritty textures and barnacles of underwater things, like on the characters themselves and in the underwater city. Some movement was pretty good, and though the fish didn't totally look like they were swimming but floating in air, it still looked pretty underwater. All in all, there are some ugly but impressive shots in there. We now have Madagascar. This was, correct me if I'm wrong, the second CG animated film to largely feature a big city after The Incredibles, and the lighting is pretty good, the textures, even the subway is. All in all, they did well with the city. The characters are stylized, so if you don't like that, you don't, but the water also looks pretty good, the sand at the beach, and even the stylized foliage in the rocks. Next, we have Over the Hedge. The suburban community frankly doesn't look impressive, and the humans look like glorified Sims characters. But the animals have pretty good fur, the grass is also good looking, Vincent's cave is done well, and we have some good fire and smoke. Surprisingly, barely any liquid, even though they live in the woods. Then there's Flushed Away. Forgetting the terrible-looking humans, we have a very detailed Ratopolis with good house and building textures, good water physics, good tunnel architecture, and yeah, also the shot flying over London looks pretty realistic. As the animal characters look like clay on purpose, they did a good job on mimicking the look. And then there's Shrek the Third. People think it didn't give any improvement over 2. Well, it has better crowd simulation than the previous films, in which everyone in the crowd looks a lot more unique. The water looked good, the hair movement looks a lot better, as is of the clothes. Next, B-Movie. The only things impressive I can find with this are probably the rainstorm and the plane stuff, but still, at least it has something to show. Madagascar Escape to Africa had good plane texture, better crowd simulation of diverse animal types, though honestly not for the zebras. The plants looked better this time around, the volcano looked pretty impressive, and of course, the clouds. We also got some good-looking electric sparks. Then there's Monsters vs. Aliens. In this one, we have, well, someone growing into a giant. We had the first 450-foot-tall character. There were some cool effects with the space scenes and the aliens, the battle scenes, and flight. The shooting of the robot also looked pretty visually good. It chose a stylized aesthetic as opposed to realism on purpose, as it had the biggest ever DreamWorks budget. We now have Shrek Forever. This one was accused of not adding anything over 3, but trust me, it did. They were able to make bodies able to be more expressive, hair even more, had even better lighting, textures, and floors smashing at the end of the film, or cake smashing. A lot of this was thanks to the available tech of How to Train Your Dragon, which looked more advanced. Finally, we have Megamind. Okay, so this actually didn't age so badly, but compared to Toy Story 3 or How to Train Your Dragon, it looked worse. However, it still had some good aerial city shots, some good textures on houses, fabric and things, some good fire and smoke and rubble, good water and lighting, and the rain scene was even more impressive than in B-movies. So that's me defending all of DreamWorks' earlier films' animation. You can argue in the comments if you disagree. See ya.
Don't. That song gives me the creeps.
What do you mean? It's our theme song.